constituents. Since being elected as the MP for Surrey Heath, the issue of special educational needs has been the single biggest issue that has dominated my email inbox. That's a refrain that we've heard from many other members. It's bigger than housing, it's bigger than the cost of living crisis, it's bigger than potholes. And that is because, certainly in my case, the situation with SEND in Surrey is that we have a deep and ongoing crisis. Right now, I have over 140 active cases involving children with special educational needs, many because the Surrey County Council has issued EHCPs in the wrong name, describing the wrong condition, and offering the wrong and inappropriate packages of support. And they often come only after weeks and months of parents fighting and advocating for their children and asking SENCOs at their schools to do the same thing. Over the past 3 years, Surrey has had the highest number of tribunal appeals anywhere in the country, a fact that very unfortunately they chose to hide from their own scrutiny committee for over 14 months, a fact that the leader of Surrey County Council denied in writing to Surrey's Lib Dem MPs. Children, broken and neglected by the system, have attempted suicide. Parents, shattered by endless roadblocks and barriers, become permanent carers for their children, who cannot be placed in schools, and at what economic cost. SENCOs and teachers, already stretched to breaking point, spend their days chasing paperwork instead of supporting pupils. As revealed recently by an ITV investigation, when parents have lodged official complaints, Surrey County Council, with a sleight of hand and a swift move of the pen, simply reclassify those complaints as inquiries in order to massage those problematic figures downwards. Zooming out, across England, councils are carrying a hidden SEND deficit of almost £5 billion, as the Honourable Member for Farnham and Borden said, parked off their books by a temporary accounting override that ends in March 2026. And when that expires, more than 60 local authorities face the risk of insolvency overnight. Now, ministers have promised a white paper this spring to recalibrate the system. Now we're told that the Department of Education cannot commit to publishing plans for at least 6 months. Now, that uncertainty is, to many parents, considered an insult, because their lives revolve around EHCP reviews, tribunal appeals and statutory deadlines. Rumours abound that the government may attempt to scale back or even scrap EHCPs, replacing them with a narrower, potentially cheaper framework. Now, let me be absolutely clear. You cannot, you should not remove statutory protections before you've built the capacity to replace them. Removing EHCP rights in a vacuum would strand families in legal and emotional limbo and drive councils potentially even closer to collapse. The Liberal Democrats believe that reform of the SEND system is long overdue, and I think that's a position shared across this House. But to guide that reform, we've set out a 5-point plan, and today I want to highlight just 3 of those key points. First, we must put, in any changes, we must put children and families at the forefront of reform. Now, that means that reform cannot be done to families, it must be done with them. They are essential in as partners in redesigning a system that shapes their children's futures. Second, we must recognise that inclusion and specialist support are not opposing ideas. We need both. Inclusion in mainstream where appropriate, but also specialist capacity where that is appropriate. They need to be boosted in parallel. Right now, 67 specialist free schools approved by the government are currently stuck in limbo, waiting to open. That's 67 communities who are currently being left in the lurch. And at the same time, councils should be empowered to open specialist hubs within mainstream schools and allowed to get on with it, without tripping over government red tape, because inclusion only works when it's resourced. Without resource, it becomes exclusion by another name. And finally, we must support local government to do its job. That means reforming a system where private SEND providers, too often backed by hedge funds, extract eye-watering profits. And I've heard in my own area of fees being charged in excess of £130,000 per year for access to that independent private provision. More than double the average cost of educating a child with special educational needs. Now, that isn't an attack on the independent sector, but it is an attack on profiteering on the backs of the most vulnerable. I will give way.
Just very briefly, would he not also agree that it's very difficult to measure accountability in these schools? Where does accountability sit, and how do parents know that their children are achieving in those schools?
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for that intervention. Accountability is very often opacity, and I've certainly seen examples of schools that are charging those fees that I've just mentioned in excess of £130,000 per year, with extremely opaque governance structures. I'm grateful for her intervention. We also need a fair funding guarantee. Ring-fence central support for any child whose assessed needs exceed a defined cost threshold. Councils should never be forced to choose between their budgets and a child's future. And so to the Minister, I say this, in the spirit of cross-party support and in the desire to ensure that we have a better system for the future. We share your concern about the broken system, but any reform must start with strengthening rights, not dismantling them. And that's why the Lib Dems are calling for a new national Senate body, an independent commission to oversee the most complex cases, guarantees of fair funding, and to track performance across England. So I hope that we can come together across this House to publish a white paper within 3 months, with clear timelines, resourcing, and genuine co-production with parents and families. We need to extend the high needs deficit override until councils are properly supported. And let's open every delayed specialist school this Parliament so that no child is left without a place. We must seize this opportunity, this moment, to get SEND reform right before any other children are failed in Surrey or across these isles.